Deep in the forgotten heart of the Yucatan jungle, where moss devours stone and roots creep like veins through ancient soil, there is a pyramid unmarked by maps and untouched by time. Not famed like Chichen Itza, not celebrated like Tikal. This one is different. It is known only in hushed voices among the villagers as La Pirámide del Silencio, the Pyramid of Silence. No ceremonial staircases, no engraved glyphs, no offerings. It was hidden beneath layers of earth, cloaked in silence and sealed by time itself, as though someone or something did not want it to be found. Then came the storm. In 2009, torrential rains lashed the region for 13 days and 13 nights. On the final day, a part of the hillside collapsed, revealing black stone beneath the jungle's skin, too angular to be natural, too deliberate to ignore. Archaeologists arrived days later, brushing aside vines and suspicion. What they found was not an entrance, but a tunnel. A narrow passage, carved into volcanic rock and descending into darkness. Above it, an inscription carved in ancient Mayan script. Let none open what the sky serpent sealed. They opened it anyway. The passage led deep into the earth until it widened into a chamber lost to time. There were no murals, no bones, no gold, only a circle of smooth stone at the center of the room. And atop it, resting, untouched by dust or decay, lay the first of the forbidden relics. Metal, but not bronze, not iron, not anything known to Mayan metallurgy. It shimmered in the torchlight with a hue that shifted like oil in water, cold to the touch, heavier than it should be, marked with a spiral of symbols that resembled no known language. 6 more objects were found around it, arranged in a star-like pattern, each one unique, each one humming with a presence that defied explanation. The room was dry, still. And yet, those who stood inside reported a strange sensation, as if being watched, as if something ancient had stirred, not from sleep, but from silence. One archaeologist, in her final published notes, wrote only this: "These were not crafted by human hands, nor were they left for us." And so the question began to spread like wildfire through the academic world. What were these relics? How did they come to be sealed inside a Mayan pyramid? And most unsettling of all, were they ever meant to be found? Long before the Spanish ever set foot in the Yucatan, before the rise and fall of Palenque, Copan, or Uxmal, the ancient Maya whispered stories not meant for foreign ears, stories not of gods or conquest, but of visitors, not from across the sea, but from beyond the sky. In scattered glyphs found in remote temple ruins, sometimes chiseled into walls, sometimes burned into obsidian tablets, there are strange figures, humanoid in shape, but wrong in proportion. Heads too large, eyes too wide, limbs too long, always depicted descending on beams of fire or walking across the sky in serpent-shaped chariots. One recurring figure stands out: Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. To outsiders, he is often dismissed as a god of wind or rain. But to the Maya, Kukulkan wasn't just a god. He was a bringer of knowledge, descending from the heavens in a vessel of flame. Some even believed he would return. Now scholars argue whether these were just poetic metaphors. But what if they weren't metaphors at all? What if the so-called relics found beneath the Pyramid of Silence were offerings? Or worse, what if they were gifts from Kukulkan himself? The inscriptions on the relics remain undeciphered, but they bear eerie resemblance to spiral symbols carved on stele in Tikal and on pottery shards in Guatemala, symbols scholars now admit have no known linguistic ancestry. Some match star charts, Others resemble molecular diagrams. One, when inverted, bears a near-perfect resemblance to a schematic of magnetic field lines. How could a civilization thousands of years old, with no concept of atoms or orbits, carve such knowledge into stone? Unless they didn't discover it. They were shown. According to a translated fragment found near the pyramid site, written in an ancient dialect, the sky serpent sang light into the dark, and from its mouth came fire that taught the maze and fire that taught the stars. But it warned, what is given in fire must never be opened in silence. A warning or a prophecy, one the modern world has now broken. When the relics were quietly moved to a secure lab in Merida, the tests began, and so did the whispers. First came the metallurgical scans. The surface of the central relic, the shimmering, spiral-etched object, displayed no welds, no seams, and no sign of having been cast, hammered, or shaped by tools. Under electron microscopy, it revealed a lattice structure unknown in terrestrial metallurgy. The atoms were aligned in perfect, repeating fractal patterns, not found in any known natural or synthetic alloy. One material scientist reportedly muttered, "It's as if the object was grown, not built." The composition was even more puzzling. A blend of rhodium, yttrium, and beryllium, extremely rare metals on Earth, combined with trace elements of something unidentified, something that resisted full spectral analysis. Some called it a contaminant. Others whispered the unthinkable. What if it isn't from Earth at all? The relics were exposed to acid, heat, radiation. Nothing altered their appearance. Nothing left a mark. Even laser ablation left no residue. But it wasn't just the durability that disturbed the scientists. It was the sound. When placed in an isolation chamber, one of the smaller relics, a perfectly smooth orb, darker than obsidian, began to emit a low hum, not audible to the ear, but detectable on sensitive equipment. A frequency pulsing at 4.3 Hz, too low for human perception, but eerily similar to the resonant frequency of the Earth's own magnetic field. Coincidence or calibration? One geophysicist proposed the object was some sort of environmental monitor, designed to read fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field or vibrational signatures. Others scoffed, but then came the final test. The orb was placed near a slab of magnetite. Immediately, it began to float, slowly, hesitantly, until it hovered 2 inches above the stone. No wires, no wind, just stillness. It wasn't just alien in appearance, it was alien in behavior. And yet, no official report was ever published. Shortly after the tests, the relics were quietly returned to their vault. The lab director retired without explanation. One technician disappeared entirely, and all mentions of the objects were removed from public record. Only a few grainy scans and whispered recollections remain, enough to ask a question the scientists would not answer aloud. What were these relics for? And perhaps more importantly, who made them? Long before the lab coats and laser scans, the Maya had their own names for the things that did not belong. They called them Baktal Tz'ikin, the gifts of the sky. Not idols, not tools, but messages, left by what the ancient texts called Kuhul Ajawab, divine lords, who descended not from clouds, but from stars. The Popol Vuh, one of the few surviving Mayan creation epics, speaks of beings who came from the heavens, bringing knowledge, fire, and seeds of stone that moved on their own. The scribes wrote in glyphs, careful and sacred. They did not eat. They did not breathe. They shone like mirrors and whispered in dreams. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as allegory, myths woven by a civilization trying to explain the unexplainable. But as the artifacts continue to challenge the limits of science, the myths begin to shimmer with new possibility. Across the Yucatan, petroglyphs depict elongated-headed figures descending from what appear to be burning discs in the sky. One glyph near Coba shows a figure offering an orb, eerily similar in shape to one of the unearthed relics, to a kneeling Mayan priest. Coincidence or record? Anthropologist Dr. Luis Castañeda once proposed that the Maya didn't worship these beings. They feared them, not because they were cruel, but because they were beyond understanding. The Maya believed the relics weren't made for humans to use, he wrote. They were left, perhaps accidentally, perhaps as a test. And across the ocean, in cultures that never touched the Americas, similar relics, similar myths. In Zimbabwe, the Ngoma Lungundu, a drum that could speak and destroy. In India, the Anshastram, a weapon of light no one could activate. In Japan, the Utsuro Bune, a metal ship carrying a woman with strange writing etched on metal plates. Are we looking at scattered pieces of a once-connected truth? A forgotten contact across continents and centuries? A pattern emerges, not of worship, but of witnessing. The Maya may not have crafted these objects, but they recorded their presence. And when the sky beings vanished, the relics were buried, not as treasure, but as warnings. In the spring of 1998, deep beneath the ruins of an unnamed pyramid near Palenque, a team of archaeologists stumbled upon something unexpected. They weren't looking for relics. They were studying erosion patterns, mapping subterranean water systems beneath the temple foundations. But a sonar scan picked up an anomaly, a hollow void behind a thick limestone wall, far below what was thought to be the bedrock. A week later, with permission from the Institute of Anthropology, they drilled carefully and broke through. What they found was not of this world. The chamber was dry, airtight, sealed for longer than any structure in the region. Inside, smooth black walls that shimmered like polished obsidian, but without reflection. The floor, geometrically patterned with inlaid metal, circles within circles, triangles spiraling into infinity. At the center of the room, a plinth, and resting atop it, the seventh relic, larger than the others. Unlike the orb or the etched spiral, this object pulsed with light, not blinking, not glowing, but breathing, a slow, rhythmic pulse of violet, barely visible, yet unmistakably alive. A researcher approached, and the pulse quickened. The moment his hand reached toward it, the object released a low-frequency tone, something between a bell and a thunderclap. Everyone fell silent. All instruments went dead. The lights, powered by modern generators, flickered and failed. For 13 seconds, there was only the hum. When the power returned, the relic had gone dark. But the wall behind the plinth now bore a mark, a spiral of glyphs, seared into the stone, not Mayan, not human. The team took photos. Only one survived the following weeks. The others, corrupted, erased, equipment destroyed in a mysterious fire that consumed the temporary lab set up at the dig site. And the relic, gone. The chamber sealed again by authorities citing structural instability. The site, restricted. The records, archived in sealed files, marked no distribution. One surviving witness, a junior assistant who left the profession entirely, wrote anonymously, "It was a beacon, a lock, waiting for the right key." But we weren't the ones meant to open it. We triggered something, and I fear it noticed. This was no artifact of faith, no token of ritual. This was technology, ancient, silent, waiting, and we awakened it. Now the question lingers, like the scent of burning incense in a sealed tomb. Were these relics truly forgotten, or were they hidden? Not from time, but from us. From eyes not yet ready to understand. From hands not meant to hold them. The Maya were master builders, mathematicians, astronomers. They charted the stars with obsidian knives and memory alone. Yet even they, builders of pyramids aligned with solstices, keepers of calendars measuring time across aeons, chose to bury these objects, not display them, not worship them, but conceal them. Why? Were they afraid or reverent? Did they fear what these relics could do, or what they meant? And if they did not make them, then who did? The story repeats across the ancient world. Strange objects encased in stone, tucked inside sealed chambers, inscribed with languages that don't belong to any known human tongue. Tools that do not rust, metal that remembers, symbols no one can read. We have always called these myths, legends, fiction. But myths do not disrupt magnetic fields. Legends do not emit measurable frequencies. And fiction doesn't vanish from sealed vaults. Perhaps it's time to shift the question from what are they to why were they left behind? Were they gifts, warnings, seeds, or breadcrumbs leading us back to a forgotten origin? And perhaps the most haunting possibility of all, what if they are still active, still listening, still waiting? For what? A signal? A return? Or for us to finally understand? If this journey into the forbidden relics stirred something in you, leave a comment, share your theories, and subscribe for more mysterious true stories from our ancient past. Do you believe the Maya were guardians of alien technology? Or were they just recording something they didn't understand? Could the relics have been planted by visitors from the stars? Or are they remnants of a civilization lost to time itself? The truth may be buried, but sometimes it's only waiting for the right eyes to see. Until next time, keep digging, because in the silence of the earth, the past still speaks, and not everything buried stays forgotten.